Welcome to Admit One with G Money. Today we're filming from Brooklyn, New York at ZeroSpace, a metaverse studio and live entertainment venue. In September, it will be the home of Internet Games Season 2, bringing to life interactive mini games where participants can compete for blue chip NFT prizes. I'm joined by the founders where we'll discuss what players and spectators can expect from Season 2. Please welcome Krish and Jordan. Hey guys, what's going on?
What's up, G? Hey there.
How are you? Thanks for coming on. Well, yeah. First off, I want to say how incredible this is. We're here at the ZeroSpace location here in Brooklyn, and I just had a tour of the facility before we went on, and it's incredible. This is like, I really feel like I'm on a Hollywood set here. So like, first off, how did you guys find this place, and how did the idea come of using ZeroSpace?
So I actually started ZeroSpace with John, my co-founder. It started off as a museum in Midtown Manhattan, kind of like showing people really futuristic types of art installations, really immersive type of stuff. Then COVID happened, museums weren't working very well. So John decided to pivot it into like a metaverse production studio. And then, yeah, now they have a 50,000 square foot space here. We're here on this giant XR stage, which is real, by the way. Like this is actually a screen. This isn't a green screen. This is all real LED. And then you're on mocap over there right now. So it's perfect for merging the real world and the digital world.
Yeah, I mean, this is super incredible. I could definitely see this. This is just the beginning, right? Like,
oh yeah.
It's as I was getting suited up, they were telling me how I guess all the Marvel movies are filmed using this tech, and it's amazing that you're starting to see it become more and more affordable, right? So that it's not just like big budget Hollywood films that you start seeing with this, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think it was Mandalorian that made it really famous. So yeah, instead of using a green screen, you have these screens behind you that are actually projecting the same color light on you, so you can see it like in camera what it's going to look like in the movie without any post-production.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I really, this has been like, my mind has been racing since I got here of like future use cases of like, man, like can we make them? Can I start doing like being the world's best like break dancer? Like what's going on here?
It's all possible now.
It's definitely pretty cool. But like let's go into Internet Game. I'm super psyched about this. First off, let's get into the story of how you guys met.
Sure. Gosh. Let's see. So this is 12 years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a college dropout, started a website about psychedelics and meditation called High Existence. It was just like a blog at the time. Like, I started a WordPress blog way back when.
But you were really early on the psychedelics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was very much the point. I discovered mushrooms and weed pretty early on, and really wanted more people to find out about how just like amazing and transformative those things could be. And didn't find any place on the web that had that really all in one place and in a way that was explained that the average person could understand them. It was all like really woo-woo, like weird stuff back then. And I got a little bit of traffic, enough for Krish to find the blog, I think through StumbleUpon, which is, that website was really friendly to me at the time. And he emailed me and wanted to be a guest writer. So he wrote the first guest post on that blog.
Yeah, I actually remember like, cause I was interning at a company and I like found the blog and I was like, who's writing these articles? Cause it felt like, I was like, I'm this person. Like I completely related to it so much. And so I wrote him and he's like, yeah, sure. I've never had anyone write on the blog besides me before, but like, why not? And I remember telling my dad that night, I'm like, hey, like I wrote this guy. And like, I imagined like Jordan was like much older than me, And it turns out he's 6 months younger than me. So
I thought he was like 5 feet tall and like say 15 years old too. And then I met him and I was like, oh, hi.
Well, so here's the question. What was your dad's response when you told him that?
I mean, my dad's my dad, so he's kind of nodded.
Right. Okay.
He's a dad.
Because it's just funny because that reminds me a lot of like just when I made all my Web3 friends, right? And like Discord, where I specifically remember after I wrote my tweet, and this was like right after New Year's of last year, and I remember specifically being like, all right, well, I'm just gonna hang out in Discord with my internet friends until this NFT shit catches on. Right. And I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to be over here. And I had a bunch of people that to your point is I had no idea what they look like. Right. And it's like you guys were living in the metaverse. How long ago was this? 12 years ago?
12 years ago. Yeah.
I mean, it was basically this small community focused on psychedelics and you guys connected. Right.
Yeah. There was no money in it then.
Right.
No money.
Slightly more money in it now.
Yeah, slightly more. Yeah.
Just a bit.
So then let's dive into the origin of Internet Game. Right. And the inspiration behind the concept. Because so you guys met, 12 years ago. Obviously, Web3 was nothing that we were talking about back then. You know, what happened? How did you guys reconnect? I think over internet game.
So we remained friends ever since, and the beginning of internet game really goes back to COVID. You know, it was mid-COVID. We're doing these COVID catch-up calls. You know, you're like do these hour-long calls, because you're not socializing at all. And you know, him and I just jam on business ideas. So Clubhouse was happening at the time. It was like the height of the Clubhouse craze, and him and I have always been really fascinated by social networks in general, but specifically more like the kind of like live interactive stuff, like HQ Trivia. That trivia show on your phone, we were both obsessed with that back in the day.
Yeah.
Like I remember him hosting a party and there was like 25 people in his house all playing HQ Trivia on their phone, which is so cool. Like anything that can, you know, be a digital thing, but it reaches out into the real world and brings people together. That, like in Pokemon Go, like there's been a few of these experiments that have usually been like boom and bust in the space. And we were like, you know, like what would actually be something that we could create in the space that would really fulfill this promise of something that is live and interactive and actually bringing people together, something that you're like excited about, that is existing on your phone. And we were kind of like, you know, just shitting on Clubhouse a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that we saw about Clubhouse was that like, hey, like this has introduced this new type of media, right? It's like this thing where you can actually feel like you're in the same space with someone and you can actually feel this sense of community, and that was really exciting, but it was just like really boring, right? Like our joke was that it was like a never-ending tech conference, right? So just like, oh, just to chime on to what Jordan said and blah 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 blah. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the initial of internet game was really just this whole idea of like, what would Clubhouse look like if it was like focused on fun?
Mm-hmm. Right. No, I love that idea, and I wanna go back to HQ Trivia for a second, right? Because it's like I think there are a couple. I mean, I remember playing it like pretty much every day for like a month and a half or something, right? Because it got really hot, and then I feel like it petered out very quickly. One of the things that always astonished me is like, myself included, is like you weren't playing for the money, right? Because I think the first prize was like $100 or $1,000. It was like so nominal, and it was split up between all the winners. So you were winning like 15 cents or something if you won, but yet everybody wanted to play it, right? So that I thought was one thing that really caught my eye. But then two was like, why did it die, right? Like why was it like so hot for so short of a time, and why didn't it have legs? I want to know if you guys have thought about that and thought about its staying power.
Oh yeah. Tremendous amount. Yeah, if you're curious to go deep, there's a 6-episode podcast on The Ringer that talks about all about I think it's called The Rise and Fall of HQ Trivia. Mm-hmm. We actually are fortunate enough to have talked to Russ, one of the co-founders, who's an investor in internet game. But basically, they got really far with this whole like trivia angle, and then people started to get less interested in the trivia, and they basically weren't able to pivot outside of trivia until their audience had already kind of started dwindling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then another thing, which is a big part of why we do internet game the way we do, is that they were funding their own prizes, right? Like it was totally free to play. Mm-hmm. They'd put up $100,000, and they were doing that several times a week. So eventually it's just like they just ran out of money, and it wasn't a really good model. So I tried to do advertising. Yeah,
it became this thing where like even from like a sustainability perspective, like they're putting up the money, and it was really hard to like generate a revenue model when you have basically attention for 15 minutes at a time, twice a day or once a day, mm-hmm. right? So the thing is that they weren't really able to kind of unlock something that was cash flowing for a long period of time.
Right.
I also say like, trivia is a skill-based thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of random of like, are you the person that knows particular facts? But there's people that are really good at trivia and people that are just never going to win.
Yeah.
So I think that was another thing of if you just never won, you eventually stop playing.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. That's that element of chance, right? Which is, is that internet game in and of itself, season 1, was it mostly chance or was it skill?
Internet game season 1 actually had a lot of chance in it. We were just like, Internet game season 1 was an experiment, right? Like we had this thesis of doing something live interactive in the Web3 space. Squid Game had just come out. It's kind of like the perfect storm of us doing like, okay, cool, let's do a elimination style tournament with mini games anyone can play and make them really simple and easy and fun, and then have NFT prizes. 60% of the mint goes to NFTs. We bought a Bored Ape as the first prize, right? So these games that we made, and we had never made games before, were a lot of taking games that had worked for a long time that we knew were fun, knew were engaging, and then adding our own twist to them. Like for example, one of these games that was more chance, but you could argue had like had a very interesting element that wasn't chance. It was called backstab.
Yeah.
All right, tell me more.
This is a great one.
This is probably the most emotional game, emotionally charged game.
We've heard stories.
It's funny because I think all the number one thing that gets commented is people talking about getting backstabbed in season 1. So I guess for those people that don't know, can you just explain the game and what that was like?
Sure thing. So it's based on that prisoner's dilemma problem. But the idea was that, the game loaded up and you had 3 buttons at the top that were backstab, collaborate, and hide. And you were randomly matched up with one of the other players. You didn't know who they were. You didn't know their Discord username, anything like that. And you had a private chat with them. And then you did a countdown where you had 24 hours to decide which one you wanted to do. So you would get the most points if you chose backstab, which means the other player was eliminated. If you both collaborated, you would get a mid-level number of points. And then hiding, you both make it through. And then hiding was kind of the foil to backstab. If someone tried to backstab you and you hid, then they would be eliminated, but you got a very small amount of points for choosing that one. So it was perfectly balanced. So we had people just freaking out, right? Just being like, oh my God, like I think it was game 4?
It was game 4.
So these are people that have made it really far, or maybe in the top 250, like a Bored Ape is within their grasp. And now they're talking to a total stranger. And also a common strategy. Crazy. The common strategy was to pretend that you were AFK and to not reply.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
Right. So, cause then you're like, okay, like maybe this person is sick or like is not playing
so
today.
what was the default move if you didn't choose?
I think it was collaborate, or was it hide?
I think I actually forget this one.
I think it might have been collaborate.
Because that goes into the game theory too, right?
I think it was collaborate. Right. Exactly.
I think it was
a
collaborate.
lot of people were like, well, shoot, this guy hasn't replied at all. I'm just going to backstab.
Right.
Yeah.
And you knew that if you didn't backstab, you were not going to win the Bored Ape, right? Because someone's going to do it and you're not going to. So yeah, it was just Discord messages, hundreds of thousands of.
There were so many stories that we heard after the fact where like people were like doxing themselves, FaceTiming, choosing the buttons at the same time at the very end,
recording.
We heard
like
this,
sending NFTs to each other, writing smart contracts.
Yeah,
like,
all sorts of crazy stuff. And I think that was one of the beautiful things about even season 1 in itself was that like you can create games in this tournament and this series, but like the way that the community essentially embraces them and the things that they do is really kind of the thing you can't expect. That makes it all the more fun.
Right. I agree. And I've experienced that like firsthand with just my community, right? It's like when you put something out there, you have an expectation of, you're like, okay, this is what I think. This is how I think the community will react. But really, once it's out there in the wild, like the community will take it where they want. So, I mean, I think this is amazing because I'm sure you guys never thought that people would be going to these lengths of like,
it was unbelievable. There was this whole element of psyops, right? That I don't think that either of us really expected. And that was this whole thing where, for example, in game 5, we basically had this particular model where you could score a certain amount of points. However, and you had 10 tries, but if you chose to retry or use another attempt, we would erase your previous score, right? So you had to be like, okay, is this score good enough? Do I want to log in this score? And what would happen is you would go to the Discord and people were saying like, oh, I just scored a 78. I scored 120. I scored a 92, right? While the average score was like a 39.
Well, and they were photoshopping fake.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
It was absurd.
Right? The game theory for this is amazing. Like I love
crazy.
I love it. So I mean, so you had how many games were there? 5 last season?
There were 5 games.
And what was I assume they got more and more difficult as the games went on, as each level went on?
Each one was really unique.
They were different.
And different.
Yeah.
And then which level experienced the most people that lost?
We had more people get eliminated as the games went on. Basically, we wanted people to experience like more of the games and the stakes to get higher and higher.
Right.
But I would say grid swap was probably the most complicated for people.
Yeah.
That was our third game.
Third game.
Yeah.
And what was that?
Yeah. It was basically, I mean, it's hard to describe. It's a Hamiltonian maze.
Okay.
So yeah, right. It's a Hamiltonian maze.
Yeah. Hamiltonian
maze.
Who doesn't know what a Hamiltonian maze is? Right?
It's a Hamiltonian maze.
Picture a 20 by 20 grid of squares, and you start off on the top left one, and there's a few of them that are missing, like that are black, right? And you have to use arrow keys to move all the way around and trace every single square without going backwards and without going over one of the blank squares.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was very strategic. And then if you got through one level, it would start over to a second level. And you basically had, I think it was 5 minutes or so to get through as many levels as possible. Yeah. And your score was based on how many squares you went across.
Wow. Okay. So who developed all these games?
We did.
You guys,
Yeah, I mean, all of this is inspiration, right? We're not game designers. This is me and Krish, like being on the internet for a long time, Googling, looking at, open source games, like looking at old arcade games, you know, stuff from the 60s, and just trying to come up with ideas that we can add our own twist to.
Yeah, we had this entire like kind of rubric, like so for the 5 games that we chose, we had like 50 on the cutting room floor.
okay.
Right.
And for us, there was this entire rubric of like, is it accessible enough? Is it something that can't be cheated? Right. Is it something that can be done on mobile and web? Is it something that everyone will easily understand and know how to play?
Is it ESL friendly?
Yeah, that was another
who
big
doesn't speak
one.
English. Well, can they play
What
it?
was the distribution of participants
in terms of
like location, geography?
I mean, it was largely North America.
Okay.
Yeah, which I think is normal with crypto.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was largely North America, but we still had folks from Australia, from Europe, from
I think it was like 60%
Asia,
Canada, Mexico, US, and then a lot of
it was real, but that was really important to us, right? Just because I know we discussed doing something like trivia, but like that was something where we're like, it's kind of hard because like how do you make trivia that's like
globally accessible?
International,
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why we like really do love these casual games, just because again they're for everybody. They're easy to learn, but they're still skill based. They're still a ton of fun. But like again, it's for everybody, regardless of device, location, language barriers.
The question is, would Krish's mom be able to?
Yeah, that's the joke.
Well, I feel like for honestly, like that's like the whole Web3 question, right? Is like, would my parents be able to buy an NFT? Like right now, no. The answer is no, right? But like the goal is to get it as easy as pressing the like button on Instagram or Facebook, where
for sure
my parents and my grandparents can do that. But like you go back and look 20 years ago, like that wasn't possible because it just didn't exist. The infrastructure wasn't there, right? And it's like that's what we're building right now. So I think I'm sitting here, I'm asking so many questions about season 1 because I think it's just so exciting because this is something we haven't seen in the NFT space before. And before we I want to talk about this in a second, but before we get into that, what were some of the lessons? What was like your key takeaways from season 1?
Gosh, I mean, you want to go? Should I go?
Yeah.
Well, first off, I guess before that, I know you guys were focused and I know this, right? Because when you do anything in the space, you need to focus on how can this get gamed, right? What are the edge cases? Did you find that for the most part there wasn't any gaming of the system?
None, zero.
That's awesome.
So there were so many good game concepts we had to throw out because they would have been easily cheatable, or like you would have been privy to collusion, things like that.
Yeah.
So like Grid Swap, for example, Grid Swap was the only game that didn't involve enough chance such that you couldn't cheat it out of season 1. And we had people that were paying engineers to come up with AI that could do it faster.
People were blatantly in the Discord talking about trying to hack it. And simultaneously we had other people that were like, again, they're like, hey, I'm an engineer or I'm a cybersecurity guy by trade. Like the amount of CPU power that you would need to crack this thing is entirely too high.
Right.
Or it would take too long and then you'd be behind.
And then you'd be way behind the time.
Because we had players that got so good at it that it'd have to be solved instantly for you to be able to be better than them. So yeah, we game 1 or season 1 we actually had no hacking to our knowledge, and people were admitting they really, really tried or paid a lot of money to try.
It's crazy.
People made spreadsheets. They made AIs. People were
they were drawing on the screen.
Oh, they remade the games. They actually coded the games, right, and like remade it so they could play it infinite number of times.
It was crazy.
Anyways,
it was absurd.
It was really
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wait. So So what were your biggest takeaways from season 1?
There's a couple of them.
Sure we have our favorites, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of them is that now we're doing all skill-based games.
Okay.
Not only from a legal perspective, but also just wanting to make sure that if you lose a game, it's your fault.
It's your fault,
right?
Yeah.
It's not like based on some luck. I mean, you paid a lot of money for this NFT. Maybe you get to like game 4. It sucks if you just the luck was against you.
Yeah.
2 is we're making them a lot of the games live and multiplayer, and the experience being much more live. We had this really cool experience in season 1.
Yeah.
It was game 5, which Krish described earlier, but it was basically an homage to Squid Game. It was the Squid Game game where the glass tiles across the bridge, where you're going across the bridge. If you step on the wrong tile, it breaks and you fall to your death. So we basically remade a game for that. And we had a guy that was streaming it in Discord, like sharing his screen. And then he had Discord voting on which tile he should choose.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Right? And Discord, like, obviously should be against him. They want him to lose because they're all players too, right? But it was weird. Like the crowd intelligence was too high.
Yeah.
And he actually got really, really far.
It was amazing.
But yeah, it was amazing to kind of be on this adventure and to feel the anxiety with him and to be rooting for him and against him at the same time. So we were like, man, we really need to make games that can be streamed and shared and give more people this experience of playing, even if they're not playing.
Right. Yeah. No. And I know that was one of the conversations, right? Because we've been talking since before season 1, right? It's like creating something, because I think that's one of the things that it's like and I think we're going to talk about this right now with this conversation is how do you take this to the masses, right? And part of it is how do you make it a spectator sport, right? Because that's really what takes it global, right? Is like maybe I suck at this game, but I want to watch people that are really good at this game and I want to root for them, right? Like my favorite players or my not. And I think that like creating that interactive experience where me as somebody that doesn't have the skill to play the game or play it well can still be entertained, right? Because when we watch game shows on television, right, we're watching people that are better than us, right? Like if you watch Jeopardy, you're watching people that, made it to Jeopardy, right? That, like I can't make it onto the show, right? And so like, but there is that entertainment factor, and that's why like I watch Jeopardy, right?
For sure. I think that I think it's about kind of creating that balance, right? So making something that's really, really enjoyable to not only watch, but also again, like really leaning into this whole idea of like interactive media as a concept, right? You know, all these people kind of like talk about the metaverse, right? And if if and whenever that comes, right, it's essentially this 3D form of the internet where all of a sudden you're like interacting in this space. And I think that in a lot of ways, like internet game is like this early kind of rendition or expression of interactive media, where again, you can watch someone play on this amazing game show, this internet game show, but you can also be in the hot seat from the comfort of your own home. And I think that's something that we really want to provide to people, because again, you can ask anyone, and you've read the comments about what people say, right? It's this emotional roller coaster of an experience that we provide. And again, it's just so exciting for the average person across the world to participate in this type of experience.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so because I want to focus on like, how do we get blockchain to the masses, right? And blockchain gaming to the masses, because I'm sure you guys, obviously this is something that you guys are obviously really thinking about. But before we get into that, I just want to, because I don't think we covered it, is like, what were you doing right before you started this? And what made you be like, we're going to go full blown into this?
So it's interesting, right? Because again, as Jordan mentioned, in terms of like the origin story, right? Jordan and I are both again longtime technology operators in our own ways. Full stack designer, dev, longtime kind of business operator, right? So product management, product strategy, venture capital, growth marketing, and so we've always had these particular skill sets. And so when we started talking about that whole idea of like a fun version of Clubhouse, this whole idea of interactive media, something that we were really interested in was this whole idea of like really kind of the convergence between consumer social media and casual gaming, because we just really kind of saw this path there from a macroeconomic perspective or a macro perspective. And so basically we had raised a little bit of money, and what we started doing was really just experimenting with like live streaming and casual games. And so that's what we were doing right before this. And I think the difficulty in a lot of ways was that like we were trying to explain what we were doing, but we just never really did that too good of a job. It was just like this hard to understand concept. And that was really kind of why when Squid Game came out and became this huge global phenomenon, it became this amazing backdrop that we as marketers were like, this is a easy way. Like again, like like we could say to you, it's like, let's say we met or we were introduced, and you're like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, imagine Squid Game but for NFTs, right? And like that sentence should not make sense, right? Like it shouldn't make sense at all, but it does. And I think that's what really allowed us to launch in the way that we did.
Well, I mean that just reminds me of like when we did meet, right? I think it was either late January or early February, or it might have even been December. I don't remember exactly when.
I think so, yeah.
But I remember you like, I think like 10 minutes in, I was like, I'm in, right? Like I'm, like literally. And I was like, I want to invest, and now I'm an advisor as well. But like, I got it right away, because I'm like, that, to your point, right, is like, everything that we had seen, like the play to earn space is very different, right? It's like, here's how you can play a game for income, right? Not for entertainment. And I think that that's what you guys are doing. That's a really interesting approach. If you want to talk about that for a second.
For sure. I think that like one of the things that the NFT space, the blockchain gaming space, like there's it's a series of experiments, right? At the end of the day, right? Like cycle, whether it's in 2017, 2018, and you look at the ICOs, and then all of a sudden you look at the last, couple of years, and you had a lot of stuff happen with DeFi, you had a lot of stuff happen with blockchain gaming, a lot of stuff happened with the NFT space. And, obviously we kind of sit between blockchain gaming and NFTs. And, for us, there's two things that we kind of really looked at. One was like from a blockchain gaming perspective, if there's some sort of calculus that says if you spend 8 hours here, you earn X dollars, like that is not, it won't last, right? Because what happens is the growth of the game is indirectly correlated to the rewards. It just has to be. But then simultaneously, it's correlated to the price of entry to play, right? Because it's becoming more popular. And then, so you have, blockchain game number one, then you have a better option that comes out and a better option that comes out. So it basically becomes rises and falls over and over again.
I think the simple question is, if you have a game and you have 1 million players and those 1 million players continue to play, but you bring in no new players, if your ecosystem collapses, it's a Ponzi.
Right.
And that's what play to earn is, right? You need growth. It wouldn't, having 1 million players means nothing unless you have new players coming in.
Yeah. And then I think that like the other thing that we really kind of focus on is this whole idea of like utility, right? And I think that you look at NFT 1.0 and really everything that's happened over the last year. And again, we really love NFT technology, the practical applications of NFT technology, the capabilities, the things that we did, even like we didn't really talk about it too much, but the ability to trade position ranks in season one was like this.
Let's go into that in a minute. But I think that's definitely interesting as well.
Yeah. But like, so for us, like we basically say like our utility is fun, right? Like we are building this massive international interactive game show where you can compete for the best NFT prizes in the world. Like, will you win the Bored Ape? Maybe, maybe not, right? Like, will you be able to, kind of trade your position rank and all that kind of stuff? Maybe, maybe not. Will you have a great time? Yes. You will have a fucking awesome time playing this game.
I love it, right? So let's talk about the trading positions from season one. Explain that.
Yeah. So this was kind of like an afterthought that we were like, oh my gosh,
we're like, whoa, wait,
great idea. So the idea was that, you mint an NFT to play, and we were already tracking your rank and your score at the NFT level with the metadata. And then we thought, like, cool, let's actually update metadata individually for all these things. So that in the 24 hours between these games, if you want to like cash out and sell your NFT to someone else, they can just buy it and they'll inherit your rank and your score. Right, so it's purely NFT based, and this happened a lot. And it was actually something like pretty innovative. I'm pretty sure we're the first people to ever do this. So you on OpenSea, you have you can see the point value and the rank, right, for all these different NFTs, and obviously the floor value is like super different depending on the actual attributes of it. And then OpenSea, which their tech is not so great. You can only individually refresh the metadata, like on one NFT. You can't refresh on the whole collection. So we had to build custom code to be able to basically ping all 8,000 of those NFT like refresh URLs all in a matter of 3 minutes without getting like blocked by OpenSea. So that right after the games, as soon as we unlock the NFTs for sales, then it would be updated and accurate. So
they would be locked for while the game was actually playing to make sure that people weren't trading, I guess, too prematurely, I guess.
Precisely, yeah. You had to have them staked during the game. And then we were also updating the images too. So like once one was eliminated, the image was like grayed out, X'd out, eliminated, red text. So yeah, it was a really cool dynamic use of NFTs.
And I think that like this was also like a really kind of fascinating component to it, where because during the games, like the floor price, the volume, the price action on it, all of this kind of stuff was like meritocracy based. It wasn't like, oh shit, I got a good one. Or like, oh, they just released some hype news, like pump the floor. This was something where based off of how someone did, right, you had different game tokens going for different prices based off of performance. Right, which again is just it's not a thing.
I haven't seen it before.
So
it's not a thing.
So I have two questions with that. First is, what was the volume like compared to? Did you expect volume to happen once the game started?
We did, yeah.
I mean, I think that was one of the most, again, and this is actually kind of funny too, because like every once in a while, someone will like copy and paste like this alpha group that's like talking about internet game. And a lot of the strategy that people have is like, hey, play an internet game, it's a fun game, right? But like if you do well, you can sell your ticket to someone else for like an easy 3x, right? And like that was like obviously that's the speculator, the trader's mind, largely in the space right now. And so I think it's just this like interesting like approach to it where, you know, yeah, look, you can go for all the marbles, you can go for the Bored Ape, you can go for the mutant or the doodle, right? But if you just want to kind of like play, have fun, and then see where you can take it without kind of having to go all the way, like it's a pretty interesting strategy.
Right. I think it's so. Yeah, I think it's super interesting. Was the volume? Was there a lot more trading? Like you said, you expected trading, but was there more trading than you expected?
I would say so. I mean,
That's what I think it's about as much as we expected.
Okay.
I think it was maybe like 600 ETH in volume or so.
yeah, I mean, it's like $2
Yeah,
million.
Because
right?
I think it's super interesting in the sense that like I'm sure there are people that probably got eliminated. They're like, oh man, like if I was this much higher, like I definitely would win the next round, right? And so it's like it kind of allows people to really play into that if they want to really. It's like when I play Candy Crush almost, right? It's like you can play for free, right? Or you can play for one entry. But if I'm like, oh, I just want to pay the whatever $5 for like unlimited lives for 24 hours, whatever it is,
for sure,
I can pay for it, right? But I can obviously not pay one entry if I really wanted to.
Yeah, no, it was one of these things. If you looked at the activity graph, you can actually see where each game start, and you can see like just the price floor just going up for after each game. It's actually really interesting because it's like just a perfect graph for that.
Right. No, that's amazing. And how many on average for season 1? I assume people were allowed to buy multiple entries.
Yeah, I think we recommend it, right? Like it's, you know, the way that it works is basically each ticket, and again for season 2, it's each ticket. It basically represents one player or like, you know, one player, right? So, you know, again, you're all of a sudden walking to game 1 in season 2, and you can play on ticket number 1. You have 3 attempts there. Right. Then you play on ticket number 2. You have 3 attempts there. And what it really allows you to do is just like kind of get your sea legs better than just if you only had 3 tries. Right. And then, you know, at the same time, you know, you can see how you're doing on ticket 1, ticket 2, ticket 3. You could sell ticket 1 to somebody else. Ticket 2, you're like, that's the one I'm going to go all the way. Right. Ticket 3 is my, you know, if I need it.
Right. No, I think that's really cool because you can buy as many entries as you want, and some people are more skilled, right, and can do it probably with one ticket. I'm trying to remember. I mean, I'm dating myself here, but have you ever seen The Wiz? I think with like that kid who was a phenomenal. This was like when Super Mario Brothers 3 came out, where he would just go and like, I think he was playing video games back in the arcade with like a quarter and he would win the game, right? Oh, cool. And like, I was definitely not that kid. I was the kid that would need like $10 to like just get to like the third stage, right? But like there are those people that are like super skilled that's like, like I'm gonna win it with one ticket, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, we like this model because it doesn't give you an unfair advantage. Mm-hmm. You know, if you buy 50 game tokens or tickets, you're investing 50 times as much. Mm-hmm. You're taking that much more risk. Right. We have more chances. So, for example, season 1, the first place guy had bought a lot of tickets, mm-hmm. right? He actually came on did one of the AMAs we do in our Discord and explained his whole strategy. And he had like insane amount of game theory. Poker player.
Wait, let's talk about that. So, how many tickets did he buy?
I think it was like 50.
He bought 50.
Roughly 50.
And what was his strategy? Just so in case people are looking for strategy for season 2.
So I mean, the strategies apply to season 1 are totally different, right? Like for instance, season 1 there was one game called Groupthink, and you just had to choose literally A, B, or C. And the idea was that if you chose the most popular option, you got like 10 points. If you chose the least popular option, you got like 100 points. And if you chose the middle option by popularity, you got eliminated.
Oh,
and then we allowed it was 24 hours, and we gave you you could self-assign roles in Discord, A, B, or C, one at a time, and you had private chats based on those roles. Okay. And you could see the counts in the sidebar of like how many people had selected which role, right? So like very interesting game theory. Right. But for him, you know, he eventually Discord figured out, you know, which one should be the safe bet, the one that's most popular. Well, you'll get the least amount of points, but you won't get eliminated. And he decided to split all of his tokens, 25 and 25 across the other two, right? Because he was gunning for first place. So he's immediately wiped out by 50%. Right. So interesting like that. But the second place person who won the other Bored Ape had one ticket. He didn't even know that he won.
Really?
And it was crazy.
Oh yeah, people were tagging him in Discord saying congrats, and he was like, "What? Like no way, really?" Because the psyops are so crazy, he didn't even know he got a good score in the last one, right?
Yeah.
And for him, it was like he had just lost both of his jobs. He was like really down on his luck. This was like kind of the last thing going for him.
Yeah.
And then he all of a sudden had a $300,000 NFT that, in his words, changed his life.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
Super cool.
That's incredible. So, That's amazing.
So and I think that's the thing. I mean, there's plenty of people that, again, they refer to themselves as like the one token club, right? So there are people who basically like won with with one token, right? And there's a lot more of them than you think. So it's not this thing where, you know, having a bunch of tickets or being a whale and all that kind of stuff will help you out tremendously. It does, you know, give you a little bit more comfort with the games and all that kind of stuff. But
how many one token club winners were there in season 1?
I mean, I wish I knew.
Okay.
I don't
All
know
right.
the answer.
Okay.
But they exist.
All right, cool. No, I mean, it's like I said, it's just one of those things where it's like if you're really, really skillful and you're good at these games, like it's like kind of like that dream that they tell you about playing the lotto, right? Like all you need is like one ticket, right, in order to be able to play, but like it's actually based on some skill.
Yeah, no, I think that's the interesting thing. And I think the thing that we really like about internet game is that, like, look, there are stakes, and that's what provides this like emotional roller coaster of an experience, right? At the end of the day, our utility is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said earlier, like our only promise, quite literally, is that you will, like, this is the most fun. And you've probably seen this. It's the most fun you can have in Web3. Mm-hmm. But, you know, for us, I think the beauty of internet game is that it's not a sweepstakes. It's not a lotto. It's a contest where you are the master of your own fate. You know, how you do is based off of your own performance. And I think that's like the really, really exciting part, because it really does put you in the competition, right? It's just kind of fun, casual competition like experience.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm super excited. I'm trying to decide how many I want to mint. So let's get into season 2 a little deeper, right? I'm hosting alongside Leah Lamar, who's hilarious. And I'm really looking forward to that. But for those people that are participating, what can they expect from this season that we didn't see in season 1?
Yeah, a couple things. So let's see. One, I mean, obviously we have you hosting. Season 1 we had FN Mecca,
awesome.
who was like a digital influencer, not a real person. So yeah, we're gonna have like you live here at ZeroSpace, actually commenting on the games and stewarding that with the hilarious Leah Lamar. So that's gonna be great. And then we also have 6 games, and 3 of them are live multiplayer games. So you'll be playing these kind of, think about like Mario Party, if you've played that, right? And so they're multiplayer games, but they're hyper simple. You know, as long as you can move a joystick around or like we use arrow keys on a computer, then you're good to go.
Right.
And yeah, we think that's going to be a whole lot more fun, being able to actually like have that live experience versus just playing in your silo for these single player games.
So you're not teasing the games beforehand, right? Like kind of in season 1. You didn't did you tease the games beforehand or no?
Season 1 we're all about the surprise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So there was really
more of a hybrid.
We didn't reveal any games at all, which was fun. But yeah, we're doing a little bit more of a hybrid. Like we just released a hype video today that does feature 4 like kind of like short 2-second clips of the game, so people can start to talk about it. And then we're also doing a bunch of tournaments with other communities next week leading up to the mint, with 2 of those games. So there will be a little bit of an ability to practice, but like also these particular games, practicing won't help you at all.
Right.
Yeah. It's just, again, just because you did well during it doesn't mean anything,
that's something we think about, right? Like we don't want to have it so that if someone has 1 billion hours to practice because they're like 16, we don't want them to have a leg up on someone that has a job and 3 kids.
Exactly.
Okay. And so let's walk through the minting process for season 2. When is the minting start, and how long does it go for? And you know, each ticket gives you 1 entry, I assume, correct?
Correct. So the mint takes place, the public mint takes place on August 30th.
Okay.
So that's in a little less than 2 weeks. I guess this doesn't really matter because this will be released when it's released. But yeah, it's on August 30th. And you can mint literally as many tickets as you want. You know, for us, again, we do refer to this as the bear market battle. So, you know, for us, it's really about kind of providing this really fun, exciting experience during this time where like a lot of, you know, really great quality projects are sitting on their hands, right? You know, a lot of this kind of free mint hot potato stuff is, you know, out there, but like we want to provide this really fun experience for people. And so the public mint is August 30th, and then we have the private sale, which is the 31st. Both of these mints run for 24 hours.
Okay.
So 24 hours. And so for our game token holders, those are people who participate in season 1. They have they've staked our game token, or they have our metaverse access card or MAC. That'll either give you either discounted access to season 2 or a free mint that you can take place on the private sale.
Okay.
And then we also have admin 1 holders.
Yeah. No, I don't know if that'll be announced by now. If it's not, then this is alpha for everybody. But all members of Admit 1 will be getting a free entry into internet game, which I think like people are already jumping into your Discord.
They are,
which I think is fun, and it's good to see that cross pollination of communities. Because again, I just like I'm excited to play this game, right? Like I think it's gonna be really fun. Although I guess as host, I probably get disqualified
no,
from
you
winning.
can't.
You're not. You can play.
I'll
In
play.
fact, you will be.
I'll play.
You'll
I just
play,
won't
but
be
you're
winning.
ineligible.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is fine. But
Through no power of his own, he's not winning.
yeah, I mean, I think even if I had the skill, like even if I tried to win, I definitely wouldn't, because I'm just terrible at video games in general.
We are too. We're awful.
It's actually hilarious that like we build these games and then people just crush us. It's ridiculous.
But that's good.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you want to see, right?
It is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we've learned we have to actually make them way harder than we think they should be because people are so much better than us at games.
Right.
It's crazy.
We're good at launching companies, not as good at playing
Yeah.
games.
Not as good.
That's good. At least you're providing entertainment for everybody in the space. So
Yeah.
how do you? So I think you already announced the first prize, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bored Ape 4317, if I remember correctly.
Okay, so that's first prize. All right, 4317.
We do voting in Discord for all the prizes. You know, we people vote on exactly which one we're gonna buy and also which like collection we're buying from.
Oh, okay.
So we did CryptoPunks versus Bored Apes, and once again, Bored Apes won by a landslide.
Really?
So
What was the
yeah.
percentage?
I think it was like 4-1.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually really interesting. I mean, this is again, it was a really fun thing that we just curious little thing that we did where it was like, let's just put everything up for a vote.
Right.
Jordan and I oftentimes say that, like, you know, as a project, like project devs and et cetera, like you want to be as much of a DAO as you can without being a DAO. And so for us, like, you know, bringing the community in and allowing them to vote on the direction and decision making is something that we really like. And so that's something that we started doing in season 1 where we're like, all right, cool, like alien friends versus motherfuckers, like which one?
Right.
You know, like, and just like allowing and seeing where people would go. And there was this really interesting thing that occurred in season 1 where, again, the wisdom of the crowd, where, like, again, we spent like $1.1 million on NFTs in season 1, and the portfolio appreciated, right? Like the collection appreciated in value. And it says something about, like, just like, again, where like the populace is in terms of what they find interesting or attractive or hype. Where literally, again, we spent $1.1 million, but again, by the end of it, I think we gave away like 1.4, 1.5.
We bought the Bored Ape at 55?
Yeah, 53.
53 ETH, and we were like, oh no,
we bought the top. We bought the top.
Because it went down to 45.
That was with our funding,
and
too.
that was, and then it went as high as, what, 130, 140 or something?
Yeah, I mean, it was
like
104, because the second one we got at like 104.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's pretty, and I think that's like kind of one of the fun things. So right, like, so we'll do the mint August 30th, August 31st, and then we basically go on a week-long shopping spree.
Right.
And it's like, it's honestly, spending $1 million on NFTs is hard. It's
You'd
not
be surprised,
easy.
And then,
especially if you're doing lower price.
Right, and so then, so will people be able to choose on every prize? So you'll go,
Pretty
so
much.
you have Bored Ape, that's first prize. Have you chosen second prize yet, or you're waiting for the mint?
No, yeah. So we'll do kind of 2 tiers of different pollings. One is like, hey, you know, should we buy like another big prize, like another 100 ETH prize, or should we buy like 101 ETH prizes?
Right.
So far, people usually just go for the
big prize.
the big prizes. So,
Yeah, of course.
It's interesting because, again, it's one of these things where, like, you know, people oftentimes ask, like, oh, how many winners will there be? How many prizes will there be? But like, it's like, dude, we could spend 100 ETH on one NFT or 101 ETH prizes, right? And so it's really up to the community at the end of the day about how many prizes.
I love it. So basically, it's not set in stone yet how many winners there'll be.
It's
No
not.
idea.
Oh, that's really cool.
None.
And it's
I've
decided
tried
by the community, right? It's like
It
it's
is,
decided by the
literally.
people that are going to play.
I tried to force through some art, you know, like some Denzas, right? And they never win. It's always like degen, PFP.
Right. Yeah.
They want their PFPs.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to make I'd like to make a suggestion that maybe art blocks gets snuck in there, maybe a squiggle. I'm personally, I love squiggles. But
I love squiggles too. Like, I just don't know if they'll win the
Yeah,
vote. So,
I hear
we gotta
that.
do it.
We just like making an art block vote. You have to choose an art blocks one.
We accept donations, though. You know, like,
yeah, we do.
we do accept donations.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, for everybody listening, I don't know why you're looking at me like that. But what can people expect from playing the games? Can you give a breakdown maybe on some themes, like maybe a little bit of alpha if you can, or whatever
sure
you
thing.
can?
So like one game we talked about a lot. That was really the inspiration for season 2. Mario Party, always a big fan of that. My favorite game that I always like hoped that would be the game was Bumper Balls.
Yeah, it's everyone's favorite.
everyone's favorite game.
It's the best game.
Yeah, so it's like a platform. Everyone's on like a ball, and you're just trying to sumo each other off. Right? It's so simple. So we've done, we did that. We had a little twist. We messed with the physics a lot, over the course of the last 4 weeks. And we've come out with this game that
It's so fun.
We call it Sumo Smash.
It's so
but
fun.
So in Slack every day we'll be like at channel like we're playing Sumo Smash, right? And like everyone on the team piles in, and we end up playing too many games in a row because we're like
it's fun, right?
And like
fun.
Yeah, like the dev that played it he's very good at it.
Unreal.
But I'm catching on him.
He's getting better.
And we added some other elements to that we won't mention yet, like that make it even more interesting and fun.
Okay.
Yeah. So like that, there's a couple of them, very much like Mario Party, that level of simplicity but multiplayer. And then something we can mention now because it's going to be everywhere next week.
Yeah.
So one of the games from season 1 that actually it just broke. Like we had to skip it, right? Because we were just like we were 3.5 people and had one developer, and like I was making the games in JavaScript, and then it was nuts.
We lost years of our life in season 1.
I imagine. I feel like every builder in the space loses years of their life when they're starting out, right? Especially
if you have a Discord
Yeah.
server.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
we were sleeping like 4 hours a day.
It's funny because I went to the WAGMI United first home game a few weeks ago in London, or outside of London in Crawley, and I'd never experienced this before because I'd never watched, I guess, British soccer. And as soon as we start, like this is the second game of the season, and as soon as we went down 1-0, like the crowd, the home team crowd, started booing the home team, right? I was sitting next to somebody, and they were like, "Oh yeah, this is like Discord in real life." I'm like, holy shit! I'm like, you're absolutely right. I'm like
100%,
like they're down 1-0, second game of the season. There's plenty of season left, and they're like booing. They're like, you suck. Like, dude, it was just hilarious. I'm like,
I gotta say though, like we did this thing that just again like like we've discussed, it's never been done before. We're doing this crazy ass thing. Our community is, I mean, I'm sure everyone says it. Like, our community is the best community. Like, our community was so like chill, understanding. They just were saying like, you guys are doing something crazy. Like, figure it out, take your time. Like, again, there were definitely some mean people, but like, for the most part, like everyone was so awesome about it, and that's really what allowed us to end up executing on this thing.
Right. And mainly because Krish would go into voice chat at like 4 a.m. and be like, "Hey guys," for like an hour. Like he was like the guy.
Right.
So,
no, well, I mean that's one of the things too. I try to stress to people as well is like when you're pushing boundaries, like not everything's gonna work on the first try. Like where it's a lot of it is trial and error and trying to figure out that right exact formula, especially when you're doing something that's new, that's like on the cutting edge of engagement and tech, right? And so it's good that people understand that. How do you envision legacy IP and brands participating in internet game in the future?
Well, I mean, I think it's a great question. It's frankly the thing that we think about a lot, right? Like, so again, you've probably seen our C deck and all this kind of stuff, but like, in a lot of ways, like, again, we say it all the time, like our utility is fun. Like we're the Coachella of the internet. Like it's this entire experience, right? Another way that we really phrase ourselves is what we refer to as like the Coinbase of fun. And this is this interesting idea where
I don't know if you want to refer to yourself as Coinbase, but yeah.
Well,
it's a little bit of a dated.
Dated. The crypto.com.
I was saying it a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's something of fun. But I think the whole idea and something that we talk about a lot is when you look at Web3 and people talk about onboarding the masses, right? Obviously, we talked about all the friction points with regard to onboarding that we very much want to solve and intend on solving. But the other thing that we oftentimes talk about is this whole idea of aligning incentive and motivation. And so right now, again, when you think about all the participants in Web3, these are basically people who got into Web3 largely because of the speculation component, right? The economic incentive. They're like, wait a minute, you bought Ethereum for what? Now it's worth what? Or you bought that punk for what? Like, and now it's this thing, right? Like, how do I get involved? All right, what is MetaMask? Like, what is Discord? Like, let me figure this out. And the things that, like, to expect every single type of individual, right? Most people don't give a shit is, I think, the truth, right? Like, there's plenty of people who are willing to spend their nights and weekends grinding in Discord and minting this thing and doing research and watching you. A lot of people don't care. A lot of people just want to live their lives. And so when we talk about aligning incentive and motivation, I think the thing that we think about in an internet game is obviously we're doing Internet Game Season 2 with G Money, right? And we're giving away this Bored Ape, right? But that means something to a very specific type of person, right? And so then we start to ask ourselves, it's like, what does Taco Bell X Internet Game look like? Right? What does Taylor Swift X Internet Game look like? What does the New York Knicks X Internet Game look like? Where all of a sudden you're not competing for a Bored Ape, right? You're competing for free soft tacos for life. You're competing for a meet and greet with your favorite pop star. You're competing for courtside seats, right? Because now all of a sudden you have this thing where it's a different type of incentive that means something to a different type of community that allows them, or even not even allows them, motivates them to want to participate in the space. And it has nothing to do with the fact that it is this transferable digital asset, right? You know, you win the Taco Bell, you know, X internet game free soft tacos for life, and all of a sudden I'm bidding on it for $15,000, right? Because I want that.
Because you love Taco.
Because I love Taco Bell. I love Taco Bell. And so, you know, for me, it's this thing where, like, then all of a sudden that person, there's a light bulb moment that goes on with, like, wait a minute, I can actually sell this thing, right? So it's a very different type of approach that we want to take with traditional IP.
We've also just built this thing that is like perfect for partnership, right?
Oh yeah.
We're basically building something where it's a tournament style that hasn't really been done before. That's really great for like millions of people to play together. And then we're building out this platform and kind of this dev flow process that we can make totally custom games with, you know, it's Taco Bell. It's like soft tacos are falling from the sky and you're grabbing them, like whatever it is, right? That makes us a really perfect partner for really any major brand or franchise, or like Discord community, NFT community that's trying to build something cool for their community to have as much fun as ours did for season 1.
Yeah, I think that, like, just to build on it, it's like something that we think about is like there's like all these brands, right? Even all these like entertainment brands, etc. They can like put on like this experience, right? It's like, hey, the, you know, Stranger Things experience in New York City or in London or in, you know, Los Angeles. It's like, what are you doing for the fan in Ohio, in Ireland, in Uganda, in India, right? And I think like what we have the ability to do is, again, with Internet Game, is again create these prizes that are relevant to these brands, but like in a lot of ways, what it is this like highly scalable, interactive brand activation. Right. So it's a very, very different way for brands to participate in the Web3 space versus just kind of being like, here's a bunch of pictures of us on the blockchain.
No, and I think brands are going to have to get more creative, because also I think what's interesting about this is it allows brands an opportunity to kind of tip their toe in the space with a trusted partner without necessarily having to go full force of like, okay, we need to launch our Discord. And, you know, it's kind of like a new business unit, right? And
for sure,
brands, I think, are experiencing that firsthand. Whereas like if you can do something like this that, you know, caters to the Web3 native, but, you know, they're kind of getting their hand held, I think that that's something that they definitely would be interested in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, I want, before we get into rapid fire, I just want to ask one question. What are your ultimate visions for Internet Game and Web3 gaming in general?
I want to make a game for 1 billion people.
That's what he wants.
Krish.
He says it.
Actually, I love it.
Like 1 billion people. You know,
he talks about it all the time.
You know, there's games that have massive amounts of players, like Fortnite, for example. Like, but I'm never gonna play Fortnite. My mom's definitely not gonna play Fortnite. It's not accessible. If you play it for your first time, you're gonna get killed every second, and it's not gonna be fun. So I think that combining, you know, this kind of like gigantic tournament style thing that we've created, partnering with the right influencers, someone that has like real you know, mainstream awareness, and then giving them prizes that they actually want. I think we can actually make something that like people are tuning in HQ Trivia style like all over the world and having a ton of fun and really looking forward to it. I'm excited about things that actually bring the world together through gaming.
I love it.
I think it's really, again, it's like about making, you know, like making the world more fun, right? Like creating community around fun, bringing people together around fun, and like just providing these really, really awesome experiences. Like it is our vision, our dream to build one of the biggest consumer facing brands in Web3.
I mean, I love it. That's a nice grand vision. So with that, let's go into rapid fire.
All right.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask a question. First answer that comes to your mind, and we'll go through them. We got, I think, about 10 of them. So first one, what's your favorite video game?
Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time.
I love Overwatch.
Okay, BTC or Gold?
BTC.
Yeah,
I mean that. I think that was an easy one.
Gold.
Let's change it. BTC or ETH?
ETH. Yeah.
ETH. Even easier question, actually.
I mean, so
that's
easier.
Is that easy?
Actually, it's easier.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as easy for you.
No, I'm just. I feel like for the populace. I mean, we're both ETH maxis.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like anybody in Web3 is probably an ETH maxi at this point.
Yeah.
All right. So
I would think
you kind of have to be.
I don't understand it, but yeah, sure.
Spirit animal, bull or bear?
Bull, always. Optimism for the win, even if things are looking bleak.
For sure.
Favorite part of Web3?
Interoperability. Yeah, I love you being able to make something in like, you know, CC0, but like, you know, anyone can build on top of it, and it's permissionless.
Yeah, I think it's community. I think it's like that we factor.
Mm-hmm. Favorite Twitter follow?
That'd be Alan Keegan. Very unknown Twitter person, hyper smart person, very interesting tweets, under 1,000 followers.
Yeah.
Mr. Keegan.
Mr. Keegan on Twitter?
Mr.
Keegan
Keegan on Twitter.
Follow him
You have to follow
after we
him.
get off there.
Yeah, it's also Alan
He's
Keegan. He is both extremely insightful and extremely funny.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, fine. I'll consider that done once we get off. Punk or Bored Ape?
Punk.
Yeah.
Yeah, the OGs, I think, we'll see what happens. I'm very impressed with the metaverse that Bored Ape Yacht Club has made. That demo was sick, but I think that it's hard to, in the long run, outpace the OG.
Okay, first NFT.
Yeah. What was yours?
Mine was a rug. So
Literally a
Well,
rug?
what was it? Do you know? Do you remember?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
It's like a
Actually, it'd be great if you could buy a rug, like a physical rug, but it's an NFT. And
Mine was
Rug Radio,
God.
a Rug Radio NFT, or literally a rug.
Oh yeah, I guess they have those.
No, he just bought an actual rug.
I bought a rug.
Yeah. Mine was a recommendation from a friend. I love the art. It was called Egos by an artist named Tuomo.
Okay.
I still have 2 of them.
All right. Amazing. Worst NFT.
My answer, I don't think this is the worst NFT. I actually love the tech and the idea underlying it, but it was my biggest loss. I bought Anonymize at like Pop.
Sick.
Because it was right before they introduced breeding, and I was like, this is going to be great. They're about to breed
Yeah.
like alpha. And then I didn't realize that like
It's
breeding just
inflationary.
dilutes. I know. It's like, so I just sold for a massive loss.
That's
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, I'd say my worst NFT is also probably the rug.
Right.
I don't know.
The rug. The rug
Bust
collection.
Okay. Cred or bread?
Let's cred or bread. What do you got?
I care less about myself being known and like more about internet game being known. So I guess I don't know.
My answer would be
Like
like
I don't know. I don't know. Bread.
don't know?
Bread. I guess.
You like
I don't-
bread?
I
Right,
don't understand what it
cred for your baby, I guess. Right.
Cred for the baby, bread for me.
Yeah.
I guess if I'm being honest.
I go with whatever gives you the most ability to do cool things in the world.
Mhm.
Elon Musk is an interesting person to look at, right? Because he's a lot of bread, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but he's also built way more cred than, say, a Bezos or a Bill Gates, right? Where he can actually move markets through Twitter.
So you want both?
I do want
Well,
both.
technically, I mean, Jeff Bezos can also move markets through Twitter. He just doesn't tweet, right?
Yeah.
But he's not cool, like he doesn't have the same cred as Elon Musk, right? I mean, now, Elon, you can think what you want about Elon, but he is an influencer.
Yeah.
Jordan's asking for a joint right now, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next time we'll film this in Joe Rogan's studio. And we'll be smoking joints. Biggest inspiration.
Oh gosh.
I mean, for this one, it's probably a book called Damon.
Yeah.
This great sci-fi book about a video game company like CEO billionaire who dies and puts in place a bunch of automatic like daemons, which are like automated software programs to basically do his crazy like take over the world plan. And it's sick and like plays into in a positive way, not like take over the world way of like why I'm building an internet game and why I'm hyped about games and their ability to get people to do things they would not normally do and kind of step out of their comfort zone and have fun.
Jordan made Damon a required reading
on the team
for team members at Internet.
I love it. Well, what's yours, Krish?
Oh gosh, I mean, for me again, it's really again just the power of community. I mean, I know it's not exactly
That was the cheesiest thing I've ever said.
I think it's just so. I think it's so cool. I think just fun, right? Like just building towards creating togetherness.
Okay. All right. And last question: what is your personal favorite NFT?
I got to go with Nouns. I think what they've built is like so brilliant, so simple, like the integration of the DAO, all the money going back to the DAO instead of the actual founders. Yeah, hats off to the team there. I think it's going to be here for the long run.
Do you own any nouns?
I do not.
A little, maybe nounders? No, not nounders. Lil nouns.
Lil Nouns, yeah, but not Nouns.
For me, it's Forgotten Runes. Right. So I think that again, like I think that more and more people need to really be focused on like, okay, not so much what's the project, what's the idea, but like who's the team.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the team is really, really strong. Like I think that they're actually capable of doing what they say they're going to do, which I think is one of the biggest things. And then the second thing is that the way that they were able to build, again, community, right? I feel like a loser now. Yeah, I think that's something that I really aspire to, just because I think that they've done such a great job of engaging folks.
Amazing. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on. I thought this was really informative. I think people that don't know about internet game hopefully now know about it and hopefully participate in season 2. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And honestly, just judging from the response on Twitter, I think that there's a lot of people within your community that are super hyped up on it. So I think that I'm very much looking forward to it. But for those in the audience that want to find out more and want to participate, what's the best place for them to go to?
That'd be internet.game, as is the website. Internet.game.
Perfect. I mean, I love the name, internet.game. Internet game
Yeah.
is a great,
It's
it's
cool.
a great game.
Yeah, and again, if you guys really like what you heard today and all that kind of stuff, like jump in the Discord. Like Jordan said, I live in there,
Okay.
quite literally. So
He's there now.
I'm there right now.
Yeah, I thought I saw you. I thought I saw you tweeting, writing in the Discord while
I was like while I was
chatting.
sitting in this chair.
So well, guys, thanks for your time, and
Yeah.
for everybody listening. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week. And really looking forward to this mint.
Thank you, G.
Cool.
And again,
Thank
thank you
you.
for everything you've done for us too.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.